Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on part 2 of part 3 of the the Apprentice Addition sort of thing. So what we're going to do from this next part is sort of give some insight from tattooers that all own shops, tattooers that represent different bodies of the industry. I'm here in the capacity of the shop owner of Little Tokyo, on the state rep of the P.T.A.A, Professional Tattoo Artists Association of Australia. Chris Rand's here. He runs a shop and comes from a family of shops that we spoke about in the previous interview. He's the National Treasurer of the P.T.A.A. We have Alex Rusty, who's one of the owners of Lighthouse Tattoo Studio and the president of the ATG, Australian Tattooists Guild. And then Ryan Ussher, who's one of Alex's business partners in Lighthouse and the state representative of the ATG. So we've got all that stuff, but also Chris is here as well as one of the moderators for the New South Wales Queensland Licence Holder Group. So sort of we're going to give you an overview of three different sort of, industry sort of opinions. So I'm just going to invite everyone in, see who we can invite. Alex in, invite Chris, and then, yeah, we'll see where this one goes. Good, pretty cruisy. I think a lot of it we'll see a lot of similar stuff, and just give people an insight into, where representative bodies view it and their interactions over the years. Okay, Chris is in. And then,
hey guys.
Hey Chris, hi Alex.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Let me just get Ryan into the room and then we're good to go. Cool. How you going, Alex?
Pretty good. Just finishing touches, reopening, opening,
Nice.
all that stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you?
Hey Ryan.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Hey, guys.
I'm just enjoying doing these things while we're still on early retirement, and just sort of same sort of thing as everyone, talking to the artists and reshuffling some shifts and schedules, and some people want to work more, some people want to work less. So yeah, just doing all that stuff that the captain of the ship does, as all you guys know.
Yeah, just working with people. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So basically, in the intro, I sort of said all this sort of stuff. So, we're all shop owners and we all represent the industry at different sort of, we have different roles in it. So I think tonight we can just sort of stick this to primarily New South Wales. So I've sort of written a few questions in it, and basically, we all come from, different areas and different apprenticeship styles compared to today. What I've kind of worked out through these series of interviews is there's still no one clear pathway into tattooing. Some people get a very structured apprenticeship. Other people get their inroad into the door and maybe collectively apprenticed by the studio. Others just get a start and then self-motivated and roll from there. So what I think the underlying thing is there is no clear pathway. There is no formal apprenticeship way, or say, for example, any form of training, external training option that, we respect or we acknowledge that is a clear pathway into tattooing. Would that, I know that was a long-winded mouthful, but is that sort of what you guys agree with?
Totally.
Yeah. It covers it. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. So what I was sort of going is the general consensus from the industry, and that's been gathered in polls and just general conversations and meetings through the different groups, that most people agree that there is no training method, that it should be in-house, and in-house, whoever is doing that training has the ability to do it as they see fit.
Yeah.
And Chris,
you're
say
asking
for
a question?
example,
Yeah.
you've apprenticed multiple people. I don't think any of us three, Alex and Ryan, we've apprenticed anyone.
No.
Yeah. I haven't.
Yeah.
My apprentices have been family members, so that throws up a whole different load of challenges, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
apprentices in many ways.
Yeah, and when you go backwards in time to like the apprenticeship that we've taken, they probably differ amongst the four of us as well, but it's so different now to how it is back then. You know, like there's artists that run seminars on YouTube, you know, with some mind-blowing techniques. But you know, like my dad said in the last interview we did, to get a little scrap of information off someone back in the day was a huge thing.
Yeah,
totally.
it was interesting.
Yeah.
Like you guys are good friends with Danny Trueon from Black Jade and In Culture.
Yeah.
You know, talking to Danny, it was really interesting. He seems to have a really good formula going on where he brings people through and has like a really good training method. I think I mentioned
it's really
before,
structured.
like, yeah, it's really cool. And this is
like
probably
he takes a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it's like probably one of the more better examples of how a studio in the modern day would train people and bring them through. Like many years ago, I worked with Paul Braniff on the Gold Coast, and he has apprenticed so many great tattooers. He would have a structured 4-year apprenticeship, and at the end of it, he would give them a certificate from the Guild of Master Craftsmen. Realistically, worth jack shit, but it meant something special to them. But with that, like I know myself, I came to Sydney and got a job at Innovision pretty much off the back of working at Skin Effects. You know, so I imagine to an extent Danny's formula and Chris, your formula with the girls and other apprentices, that studio name lends a lot of weight that you know, other shops go, oh yeah, they've had good training. I think I've not done an apprentice, but I've taken people on that have come through both examples of a structured apprenticeship and an unstructured one. I think the unstructured one I've found a little bit easier to fine tune and maybe remold than a super structured one, because they're very stuck in their ways of this is the way it's got to be. So yeah, like you guys, obviously you've not apprenticed anyone, but you've both had hands in helping other tattooers. Like, how have you found that over the years?
Look, I think that,
you go.
Oh, you.
No, you go, Ryan. You go, yeah.
Look, I mean, I think, you know, over the years helping other tattooers, it really depends on the person. And like you say, some people come into the shop and, you know, they are stuck in their ways. But look, I mean, most of the guys that have sort of come through our shop, you know, we've got a really, like a very open book policy. Most of us, or all of us, are quite willing and, you know, keen to help. And it's not just, you know, Alex and I, you know, and Nathan kind of, you know, teaching people. It's everyone, and everyone sort of turns to each other for advice for the most part. And it's kind of, in that way, I feel like most of the guys have been quite, I don't know, moldable, I guess you would say, but not, I mean, most of them come in with a skill set that's, you know, you don't really need to fine tune too much, if anything. Yeah. And everyone's sort of willing to listen and to take on advice, and vice versa too, you know. Yeah. It's always mutual.
Yeah, cool.
I think one of the reasons, like, you know, you're saying we've never done an apprenticeship. Like I always sort of thought, you know, especially back when we were starting, like there were so many examples of like people really doing, I think, a poor job of running an apprenticeship. So, you know, people kind of getting into it for maybe the wrong reasons or being, you know, taken. What's that?
Someone's fire alarm.
But people, you know, people kind of getting taken in for the wrong reasons, or people kind of not really taking, I guess, their obligations to the person they're teaching seriously. And I suppose, you know, I always sort of looked at that and thought, you know, there were really, like you're saying, you know, there were definitely good examples around of people taking that responsibility really seriously, doing right by the people they were teaching. And whether it was structure or just, you know, a lot of goodwill and you know, careful attention to what they're actually doing and
Yeah.
looking after their welfare as a growing artist. I think I see more of that happening now. Like, you were talking about Danny. I mean, I was talking to him again last night about this sort of stuff, and like, it's actually quite surprising. And the thing is that it's not just an automatic pass. People can fail if they're not good enough. Like, it's not like everyone who gets in gets a pass. So I think he takes the job quite, and there are other people I hear as well. They take the job quite seriously, and I think they're producing better apprentices for it.
Yeah, which is a benefit for the industry all round. I think what I basically wanted to get, because like our shop, I'm sure you guys get as well, like multiple emails a week looking for an apprenticeship, all this sort of thing. And I've had good customers want to bring in their son or their daughter and, spend 15 minutes and chat to them. And then, one guy was like, oh, maybe I'm just going to enroll him in this tattoo school. And I'm like, maybe not. That's not the greatest thing. Or any this sort of stuff, or online courses. It's basically giving people false expectations. Thankfully, here in Australia, I think a couple popped up in Melbourne, but they never really went anywhere. But I think it would be fair to say that, all of our organisations have like a pretty blanket stance that we don't agree in external tattoo schools, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that. I mean, the member feedback is basically every time anything like that comes up, everyone's pretty unanimously anti tattoo schools. I think
any tattooer I've spoken to in Australia is of that opinion, member or not. it's pretty unanimous. For most tattooers who have been working with tattooers.
Totally. Here, we've just got a question from Eddie Tattoo 13. Do you guys feel that machine building, needle making, and mixing inks is still important in apprenticeships? I'll go first. Like, if you can have access to it, it's definitely good, but it's not essential these days. Like, those people that are maybe in an apprenticeship and don't have the access to those sort of skills, they can seek somebody out to maybe, give them that knowledge or dig a little bit deeper, and they can find it. But with tattooing moving on so fast, I don't think it is overall as important as it once was. Would anyone agree or disagree?
Totally. I agree. And I think that, I don't think it's as important as it once was. But in saying that, if you do have access, it's a great thing to do, the knowledge to do these things, it's fantastic. And I think that, there's a lot of lost arts and a lot of lost things in tattooing that, I've been tattooing for 15 years, and I feel like that's a short amount of time compared to, lots and lots of, artists before me. And, even in that time, things have changed and evolved in such a insanely fast way. And some for the better, some not. And I don't know. I think that if you can, and if it's part of your apprenticeship, soak it up, do it. What do you got to lose? It's all skill.
Yeah, totally. And knowledge is power.
Totally.
What about you, Chris? Did you teach the girls how to make needles?
Absolutely, and not the youngest one though, not Kristen.
Yep.
We've like she said, we've had a little bit of trouble with her apprenticeship because she's had to have 2 big lockdowns. So just when we get a roll on and she starts to really kick into gear and start to really pick up her learning, then the lockdowns have happened. So in trying to navigate her through that's been quite challenging. But I think with all old school stuff, I mean, there's certain times, even myself, where I might be doing something and run into a situation where some of my old school skills help me out of that situation. Like I might be using a rotary machine and I'm just not getting that line the way that I really would like it to be sculpted. And I'll pick up my coil machine and it just makes it so much more easier. Not all the time, but there's just certain elements of it where you might be working with a particular color, and because you've got the knowledge of how you used to mix and blend colors together, you can see that the consistency of that pigment needs to be something that it's not. So I think
and you know why. you know what I mean? Like it helps that when you know why, it's great. I totally agree.
Absolutely. The more knowledge that you can get about tattooing, whether it's the history or the culture or a new technique, you know, like I said, I'm learning as much off the girls as they're learning off me, because, you know, they'll show me something on how to market something through TikTok that I had no idea about. And it opens in a different way, you know. You can, it's got to be really flexible, and it's like you said, Rhys, when people come through a structured or unstructured apprenticeship, it's more the individual and how flexible and how adaptive they are to change.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Here's a bit of a light-hearted question from Johnny Evans. What's the best advice you've gotten as apprentices which has helped you be the artists you are now? For me, early in the piece was like, get some tattoos, boy. And the second one was, what you see here and here stays here. And that helped me a lot.
Oh, fuck. I don't know. Like, I think early on when I was pretty impressionable, I remember Matt Cunnington said to me, he said, never look at other tattoos for reference. And I took that so literally that for years, I literally, like, I only looked at you know, like I'd be doing traditional, but I'd only be using reference that was like a photo of the animal or whatever. And, you know, in one way it was good for you know, doing what getting your drawing skills up. You know, you're looking at real life as opposed to, I guess, you know, stuff that's already been processed into that style. But then I think I missed the point on a lot of bits and pieces, because, you know, I was told don't look at other, and I think he meant it, you know, don't copy people. But I was just like, you know.
What about you, Ryan?
Look, oh, mate, look, my apprenticeship was pretty crazy, but it's hard to remember a lot of it. But I do remember actually someone, I think it was the manager of the shop, said to me, if you don't fucking do it, you'll be fucking fired immediately. And that was about doing a tattoo on a client that was happy to get tattooed by an apprentice. He wanted something very specific, and it was basically, you know, you're at the point you can jump in, do it, and get it done. And if you don't, well, you know, this isn't the place for you. And it kind of, you know, I might not. I look back and I might not be proud of what I did that day, but I did it, and I went, you know what, I actually can do this, and you know, I can see a pathway forward, and it was interesting.
It's in the deep end.
Yes, extremely. Yeah.
What about yourself, Chris?
When I was really young, even before I started tattooing, my dad just said to me, if you're doing anything and it doesn't feel right or there's something wrong, stop and ask. Because if you don't know the answer to that question, it isn't a dumb question. Yeah, that's true.
That's good advice.
That's better than my advice.
I think better than all of our advice. Cool. So this is sort of just like New South Wales specific, because here, you know, we're all aware we have this license system you have your operator's license, but also a tattoo artist license to tattoo. Like, it might be fair to say that we would all agree that, for example, any new entrant into the industry, maybe a cross-contamination certificate could be attached to that license. I'm pretty sure that's what happens in Queensland. Mm-hmm. Like, I know from a personal level, I'll speak and I'll go, yeah, I think that's important. People that are already tattooing and have got time served that maybe don't have these cross-contamination certificates, I don't think it's relevant because they've got years of industry knowledge. But for example, if I was ever to take on an apprentice, I would be making them do the cross-contamination certificate first before you then go on and get your tattoo license to be able to legally tattoo.
Look, to me that sounds totally sound. I mean, it's something I could really have benefited from, especially in the early days.
Me too.
You know, and I think unless you know, I think there are people that do encourage their apprentices to do it. I mean, are you saying that you think that should be attached to the licensing, or are you saying that's something that good?
I think, you know, I'm not saying it should be attached. In the future, I don't see it as a bad thing. Like, anyone that currently has a license and is already working, I wouldn't see it as relevant. But for example, we're still waiting for this licensing to be reviewed, and the thing they've got in Queensland, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is technically that is a yes.
Well, that's all right. No, I'm just sort of asking. I mean, I think. I mean, you hear that kind of sentiment echoed around the industry quite a lot. Member feedback with the guild sort of reflects that as well. I ended up doing one of those things for a convention in California, and I found it was like really beneficial. You find, and I've been tattooing for a while when I did that, but I knew most of the stuff, but it kind of puts it into focus, and it's kind of like back to that thing about needle making and ink making and stuff, where when you know the detail about how something works or why it works, you actually have a different kind of understanding of the process. So, if you're understanding about blood splatter or the way things fall, or this detail that you might not get otherwise, I think that really helps. It might affect how you lay out your workstation to make it easier to avoid, all sorts of stuff like that. I can imagine it being pretty beneficial.
Yeah,
totally.
I got to back that. I mean, I think it'd be great and beneficial. I wish that I was offered to do that when I did an apprenticeship, and it just wasn't even on the cards. And to be honest, at that point in time, I didn't look for it. I didn't think about it. I felt that what I was learning and being shown was what I needed to know, and I did the same thing as Alex years later. Did a course when we were doing convention in San Diego, and it was really helpful. And I think that there's nothing to lose in doing that course, and I can see massive benefits from that just being built in as part of an apprenticeship.
Yeah. What do you think, Chris? I imagine you echo all those sentiments.
Look, if you're a tattooist and you don't prioritize infection control and cross-contamination, get the fuck out of the industry.
Yeah, totally.
If you don't put the priority being your client's health and the health and safety of yourself and your staff as a number one priority, just get the fuck out of the industry. Go do something else. Yeah,
and especially I think with COVID now, like hygiene is even more paramount. It's the most important thing. I've got a question here from Fox Immortal. I'm 34. Is it too late to start a career as a tattoo artist, and where should I start? The answer would be no, it's not too late. And the answer would be maybe seek out a cross-contamination course online and do that. And just obviously along with building a portfolio and building your artwork, that will show a studio that you contact with that maybe that could be one of the little things that puts you ahead of the wave of people that are looking for apprenticeships.
It would show definitely
I'm pretty sure Bob Tyrrell was a lot older than that, and what a legend when he first started doing. He came into the industry late. Yeah. So
I think even Adam Kitamoto started quite late as well. There's so many examples of great tattooers that have started late in their career.
Absolutely.
So
cool.
I
don't think it's too late.
Yeah, never. So this is sort of like a different thing. I think it's pretty fair to say what I was trying to get out of all this is just give people some insight from like industry bodies and shop owners of the general consensus of the industry, of how we feel apprenticeships are and entry to it and all that sort of stuff. I'll be out of this one, but can I just ask you guys, there's the issue in Europe at the moment, and obviously Queensland, you guys all had, I'm not sure about you, Rainer, but I know both Alex and Chris did, with the Queensland ink situation. But I'm pretty sure you guys are more in touch with Europe at the moment, and it looks like they're heading into some dirty water. Can you elaborate on that?
They're waiting for a determination to come in December. But if they don't make any changes, one of the big problems for colour inks is that they've set the limitation on the binder too low for pretty much most coloured inks and any black to be passable in Europe. But I think I don't know. Chris can sort of back this up. I think Queensland Health seem to at least have acknowledged that following the European standard to the letter is just completely unworkable. And they really need to be talking to American manufacturers. I don't know. I think there's a lot more work to be done there. But at least they know they haven't got it right. That's the starting point.
Yeah. Always a bonus.
Yeah. What do you reckon,
Yeah.
Chris?
I've had another conversation with Queensland Health, and even down to the fact that they've begun to talk to the American manufacturers is a stepping stone. But I kind of let them know you can't leave any of the manufacturers off the table, because if you're talking to like Intense or Fusion and Dynamic, and you leave off Solid, and everyone's using, even if they were only using say Solid's yellow, that's a yellow that's widely used. They might not be using any of the other colours in that particular brand. I'm only using it as an example. But you can't leave anyone off the table. You've got to kind of be talking across the board, or at least talking to ones that will spread the information to the other manufacturers. Otherwise, you're going to run into a situation that is like Europe, where you're going to limit artists' choice of what they can use down to something that's not workable. But yeah, they do seem to be pretty receptive. They know that they ballsed it up last time by having no consultation. We raised a few other issues around Indigenous tattooing, and not just like the Australian Aboriginal Indigenous community, but also the other Polynesian ones, the Samoan, the Maori. Even we've raised the Indigenous Japanese tattooing, because there's practitioners in Queensland that do that as well. So we've raised these issues. We've been pretty diligent, I think the ATG has as well, in trying to find out off tattooers off the ground what's going to actually work. And all we can do in that situation is put their voice forward, try to leave our own personal opinions at the door and take the voice of the many to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Agreed. Totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like tonight's a quick one. Like I think we've covered everything I kind of wanted, so I thank you guys. But we'll just run through a few more quick questions. Like Tony Peppers has asked, did you experience much hazing during like our collective apprenticeships? I'd say myself no, but I definitely learnt character. Tattooing was a different time then, and that era is not relevant now. Like no one in today's age should feel unsafe, should be experienced any sort of hazing in any form of apprenticeship, especially tattooing. So, if someone finds themselves in that situation, you don't need to deal with it. You can reach out to people.
Totally.
Yeah.
I didn't really, I was pretty okay from all that stuff. I didn't get too much of it, but I heard of lots of people who did.
Yep.
And it isn't okay, and that's not part of tattooing, and it nor should it be. And get out. You're in the wrong apprenticeship.
Stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I've got a shop full of ladies with my wife and daughters, so we extend that to clients. If a client is disrespectful, we let them know that it's not the time and place for it. That the tattoo shop is not the razzle dazzle that it was in the 80s. And we try and make it like a little family shop for everyone. So we're grateful. The clients that we got are super. We've only had like one incident over the years where we had a male client that was a little bit rude, and that was sort of diffused pretty quickly. But yeah, especially with the growing amount of females in the industry, I think it's a good thing to create equality in the industry and to also make those females feel as safe as possible.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
I've got another question here from. Did someone want to carry on?
Oh no, I was just saying, like, I don't feel like I ever got hazed. I mean, I feel like there was back in the day when you had that kind of that order of seniority when work would come in, who got to choose what. You'd sometimes get people in the sort of the lower middle pecking order, kind of pissing on the one just below them. Yep. But I feel like the whole structure of the industry has changed. You don't have that order, because people are kind of people are attracting their own clients. They're specialising in their own styles. They're even apprenticeships, like right from the start, you see that you see apprentices even attracting their own clients based on sort of, I guess, the social side of tattooing now. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So Joey Gamales, I hope I pronounced that correctly. How long were your guys' apprenticeships for, roughly, start to finish, to put in a realistic time frame? For me, I worked under a guy called Tattoo Charlie for about 3 years, where he oversaw everything I did. And I guess it was only after we went our separate ways and I started working in another shop that I got given the keys to the shop, and I was doing night shift. I was like, I guess my apprenticeship's over now. So that was my apprenticeship, so to speak. But with that said, you never stop learning.
Look,
That's about you, Ryan.
my apprenticeship was not like I said earlier. It wasn't your typical apprenticeship. It was a little strange. I tattooed myself a fair bit before going in, and I was considered more a counter hand. I did that for a little while, and I brought a few friends in and tattooed them a few times, and I guess the guy that I was, so you were assigned, I was a counter hand for one artist, and I guess in a sense that was who I was apprenticing under in a sort of way. He got the sack, and I was told, "You're up or you're out," and I went, "Okay." But like you said, you never stop learning, and honestly, I feel like my apprenticeship was served, below a whole bunch of artists, most of which I didn't even work with, and then eventually did, or work with along the way, and I learned for years, and feel like it took a while, so it's hard. I didn't have the traditional apprenticeship that a lot of people do, if there is such a thing, especially these days. But yeah, it was different.
Yeah, cool. And you, Alex?
Very.
Look, I would say my apprenticeship probably lasted about 2 years. I mean, I was definitely tattooing in that thing. It wasn't very structured, but I think so I apprenticed under Steve King essentially. I'd done a few tattoos before I started there, but he sort of showed me everything I needed to know to kind of get up to scratch and work. But I think having someone young and hungry in the shop, they probably hadn't had someone like that for a while, so it was actually kind of a good thing. Every question I asked was sort of like gave him a chance to have a bit of shop talk about stuff that maybe other people were bored of or weren't engaged with. So I don't think he was going to force machine building on me, but because he was interested in it and I was interested in it, it was kind of a good match. But like everyone said, you actually never stop learning. I think I almost sort of, in a way, when I moved to Brisbane and worked at Westside, I kind of started again in some regards with some things. And then when I came back to Sydney and worked with Josh, it was the same again, where, I was almost taken down a notch, and I was basically, I wasn't allowed to do any Japanese tattooing out of the shop without his sort of, assistance or overseeing of the design. But, that was actually really good, because someone taking that kind of time and direct care in your development, it seemed rare at the time, and it really benefited me.
Yeah, cool. And you, Chris, how long did your apprenticeship sort of run for?
Well, as you can see from about half an hour ago, Dave's still tattooing, so guess who's still apprenticing?
Yeah.
I've got to see me, man. I still do a little bit of work alongside him, so I've still got to empty the bin and sweep the floor. He's not going to let me off the hook that easy, but yeah, exactly what you said, guys. You can always learn something new every day, and that should be the aim of the game. But in terms of my apprenticeship, whilst he's still working, I'm still the apprentice.
Yeah, cool.
It sounds like a really cool dynamic, having a family shop. It actually does. It sounds really cool.
It sounds cool. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I love my family to bits. But there are challenges that go along with it all. You do sacrifice. Tattooing can eat you whole, and it does dominate your relationships. We just know that that's how it is, and we just do our best each day to get through it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very, very rare dynamic, that's for sure.
Totally.
Cool. All right, guys. Unless you guys want to add anything, I just wanted to try and do tonight as sort of some form of official, sort of talk from us sort of guys to let apprentices,
thanks,
or want to be apprentices, have a little bit more of a semi-official insight into that sort of thing. So I know everyone's busy. I've chewed Chris's ear off for an hour before. I know you guys have got a lot on your plate at the moment. So I really appreciate everyone's time, and see you all when I see you all in person.
Thanks for inviting us on.
One thing.
Thanks for inviting us. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to see happen, if it's possible, and that is the guys that are taking on apprentices, like you said with Danny and that, I wouldn't see it as a bad thing to get people into a group that are doing that, just so we can exchange ideas about how to train each other. If we bring it together, we bring shops together that are trainer apprentice and go, how do you do this? How are you doing that? And pool our resources as a team of industry-backed trainers, we're going to stand a better chance than keeping the hounds at bay that want to come in from outside. Because whilst we recognise the history and culture and traditions of tattooing, and obviously we all have different technical abilities, but if we pull our resources on each other, how do you train, and we keep it in-house amongst the tattoo community, I think we're going to stand a better chance of protecting the craft and to bring it forward in the future so that it can grow and flourish without it becoming an absolute disaster.
Free for all. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit to that. You know, you hear you know, tidbits of how this guy's done, you know, someone, for example, who's taught a whole bunch of, you know, quite good apprentices, and you hear sort of bits of information. If you were going to take on an apprentice, you would totally adopt that. You know, you totally would, you know, but no, that's a good idea, you know, sharing information. And
it's good for people, you know, who would ever think about taking on an apprenticeship, an apprentice. Sorry, I mean, you know, I think about the idea of it, and my brain explodes a little bit, you know, at taking one on, because I just think there's not enough time in my brain
to do it properly.
To do it, to do it properly. But you know, if there was sort of, you know, I know Alex, you and I, you know, we've discussed, you know, the idea of it before, and sort of, you know, thought about it in a few different ways, and that's kind of as far as it's got, because, you know, the logistics of it is quite hard, but having that sort of knowledge out there and being able to share ideas and all that kind of stuff, you know, that might help pave the way for people to kind of, you know, find an easier path in, both as an apprentice or you know, someone providing an apprenticeship.
Yeah, totally. I was talking with Evan Griffiths on one of these, you know, a while ago, and he was saying, like, you know, he was always bitching and moaning that, there's no one teaches apprentices properly these days, this or the other, this, that, or the other. And he goes, he finally got sick of bitching and moaning and people going, well, why don't you do it? And he just bit the bullet and he's done it. And he's really enjoying the process and doing a proper one. And, you know, you guys have got a lot of great knowledge to share. And, you know, I'm sure that day will come along. But like Chris mentioned, talking with Danny or Joe Kins or the RAND family or so many other people that have had a really good system, I think it can do nothing but benefit the industry.
Well,
it sounds rewarding. Sounds great. You know, the idea is fantastic.
We have a big focus on, you know, like, how do you grey shade like that? How do you line like that? And we share our techniques. But I think the time is coming where we share how we pass the knowledge on to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I think there's enough. Yeah. Sure.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. See you all in the future. Good luck.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks again, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Everything that goes with it. See you guys. Thank you.
See you in person.
Thanks for your time. Okay.